gravel road, or is that mud road racing for day one is now behind them. But the action is far from over. Stage 5 is a super special stage at the Winterhoek on the outskirts of Uitenhage, where two evenly matched competitors will race one another on a similar course.
First up, the Castrol Toyota of Johnny Gemmell and Callan Swan, and the Sasol Ford Fiesta of Mark Lanier and Robin Houghton. This is not only a fight for a rally win, but could also be the fight for the overall championship. This round, though, goes to Gemmell, who beats his rival by 3 seconds. The next race is a duel between the second Castrol Toyota of Leroy Poulter and Alvin Coetzee and the first of the BP Volkswagen Polos of Hergen Vecken and Pierre Arends. Vecken was eager to make up lost time, but it's hard to make up time on such a short tarmac stage, and the Polo loses another 3 seconds to Poulter. This is a race between Basil Reed Ford Fiesta teammates Charles Wilken and Greg Godrich and Jan Habbig and Robert Paisley. Wilken is normally very quick in these type of tarmac stages, but this time he had to contend with a very fast Habbig, who was fighting for the overall victory. It's Habbig who beats his teammate by 4 seconds. BP Volkswagen's Enzo Keen and Guy Hodgson square off against the Sasol Ford of John Williams and Clovis Frey. Volkswagen's bad luck on day one will be a bitter pill to swallow for the hosts, and Keen clearly still had an issue inside his Polo as he lost a full 12 seconds to Williams on the wet tarmac roads of Winterhoek. Hans Weiss and Bjorn de Gant were way down the leaderboard, but in the race against Hein Latergan and Johan van der Merwe, the Dutchman was obviously on a mission to restore some pride for his BP Volkswagen team, and that's exactly what he did. He only beat Latergan by less than a second, but his time was the fastest of the day, giving Volkswagen their first stage win on their home event. Latergan, however, did himself no harm by setting the second fastest time of the day. Next up, a race between two similar Toyotas, JP Damson and Grant Martin behind the wheel of the Team Total Toyota Auris, and Geniel de Villiers and Ralph Pitchford in the Imperial Toyota version. De Villiers is a former multiple circuit racing driver, but rallying is different, and it's the Total Toyota of Damso who takes the victory by just over a single second. Stages like these very seldom influence the overall outcome, but in a fight as close as the one between Gugu Zulu and Carl Peskin and Henk Latergan and Barry White, every single second counts. The Q8 Oils Polo of Latergan started stage 5 just 4 seconds behind the BP version of his rival, but the young Latergan managed to eat into Zulu's advantage by just over 2 seconds. More importantly, Latergan and Zulu set the 3rd and 5th fastest times of all on stage 5.
So these were the standings after stage 5 and at the end of a very demanding day 1 of the Volkswagen Rally. Johnny Gemmell is your leader by just 5.1 seconds over Jan Habbig, with Leroy Poulter a further 13 seconds back. The Fords of Cronje and Williams hold station in 4th and 5th, ahead of Latergan. Second did well to recover to get to 7th, just 5 seconds ahead of Damso. Zulu and de Villiers swap places in 9th and 10th. It's the end of the wettest and muddiest day of rallying we've seen in many years. Back in the Dunlop Service Park, it's a day that rally hosts Volkswagen will want to forget, as their arch-enemy Toyota is currently occupying 2 of the top 3 positions. Leroy Poulter was happy to survive the slippery conditions to occupy 3rd.
It was tough for everyone. We've got through it now, and for me it's also a good confidence build-up for tomorrow, after the last couple of races we've had.
Jan Habbig is a wily old fox, and just as so many times before in his career, was once again in a fight for rally glory.
It's been a bit of a tough day, but it's everyone's pushing very hard.
The last time that Johnny Gemmell won an event was here in 2010, and with a 5-second lead going into day 2, he will once again have the opportunity to repeat his performance from 2 years ago. It's day 2 of the Volkswagen Rally here in the Eastern Cape. The day dawned with more bad news for both drivers and spectators, as Port Elizabeth and the nearby Longmore Forest could not escape the winter weather's last stand. The Volkswagen Rally organisers, who have done a great job in putting this event together, had no choice but to cancel a couple of stages, while a flood warning was issued, preventing any spectators to enter the Longmore Forest. But for the number of drivers and teams still fighting for victory, or is that survival, the show had to go on. Leroy Polters in a fighting third position. Over at the Basil Reed Ford camp, it was decision time for Jan Habig.
Today we've got to push hard and see if we can make a dent in Johnny's time. So that's the objective this morning.
And can Castrol Toyota's Johnny Gemmell stay ahead of the field?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, it's raining quite a bit now, so we'll just see what there's in front of us.
Day 2 action gets underway with Johnny Gemmell and Callan Swan opening the road in their Castrol Toyota. Stage 6 or Culturama is the same stage as Sindom from the day before, but run in the opposite direction. Johnny Gemmell clearly has a love affair with this piece of the Longmore Forest, as just like the day before, he sets the fastest time again to increase his overall lead. Jan Habig and Robert Paisley were obviously going to give it their all here, but the windscreen in the Basil Reed Fiesta missed it up, forcing Habig to even stop.
Nou kat, kyk my papier hier. Okay, doen gaan die windscreen. Ja.
The gap between himself and Gemmell in the lead has just grown from 5 seconds to 27 seconds. Not the start to the day that Habig wanted. Leroy Polter and Alvin Coetzee were a full 13 seconds behind Habig's second place before the start of Culturama. But a good time, combined with Habig's problems, means the Castrol Toyota is now just 1.1 seconds behind the Ford, and that for second place. Mark Lonier and Robin Houghton start the day in fourth, nearly a minute behind the leaders. But the Cecil Ford had its sights set on a podium position. The second fastest time of all on stage 6 did him no harm, but more importantly, he closed the gap to third place Polter by 6 seconds. John Williams and Cobus Frey in the sister Cecil Ford Fiesta were maybe a touch too far behind teammates Cronje to challenge for fourth position, but they now also had a number of fast drivers breathing down their necks. Fast drivers like Hein Latergan and Johan van der Merwe in the Q8 All's Peugeot 207, who started day 2 just 0.8 seconds behind Williams. On stage 6, however, Latergan struggled to find a good rhythm and lost around 32 seconds to Williams. This was the gap that BP Volkswagen's Hergen Vekken and Pierre Aries were hoping for. Vekken had everyone looking over his shoulder to see how far up the leaderboard he can take the new BP Polo on their home event. And on stage 6, the former champion gained another position to move into 6th. Now hot on the heels of Williams in 5th. Enzo Keen and Guy Hodgson were behind the wheel of another BP Volkswagen Polo on the charge. Keen set the 7th fastest time on Culturama to gain another position, but he was still outside the top 10 following his setbacks from day 1. And what about the performance from youngster Henk Latergan and Barry White in the Q8 Oils Polo? Latergan Jr. started day 2 down in 11th position overall, but the 8th fastest time of all on stage 6 sees him climb all the way to 8th and past his Super 2000 challenge rival Gugu Zulu. And speaking of Zulu, the battle for top 10 positions was now a fierce one, with only 4 seconds separating the BP Polo of Zulu and Carl Peskin and the Imperial Toyota of Geniel de Villiers and Ralph Pitchford. The former Dakar winner managed to beat Zulu by just 5 seconds on stage 6, but it was enough to also gain a position and move into 9th overall.
Johnny Gemmell's lead increases at the top of the leaderboard, with Jan Habig now a full 27 seconds behind. Polter is in 3rd, ahead of Cronje and Williams, while Vekken and Latergan Jr. and de Villiers all gain positions. Gugu Zulu drops his spot and is now in 10th. Day 2 of the Volkswagen Rally will become even more treacherous over the remaining few stages. How far up the leaderboard will the Volkswagens climb? Will Habig challenge for another career victory? Or will Johnny Gemmell hang on to his lead? Join us after the break. Still the final day of the Volkswagen Rally, where torrential rain has provided South Africa's top rally drivers with a very demanding test of driving skill. Stage 7 had to be cancelled due to the floods, but 3 more stages in the Longmore Forest remain. In his first rally since the end of 2011, Dakar hero Geniel de Villiers did well to survive so far.
You know, for me, I'm just not 100% confident in the car yet, so I'm not up to the speed that Johnny and Leroy is.
Volkswagen's Hergen Vekken was on a mission to salvage some points for sponsors Volkswagen on their home rally.
Depends on how many of the stages are going to be cancelled. You know, you need a bit of kilometers to make up time. So, well, we'll see.
But at the top of the leaderboard, it was still Johnny Gemmell, who now had a comfortable lead over Jan Harbeck.
It's very easy to make a mistake, and you know you won't come out of the stage. So just got to keep things focused and do what we've been doing.
With stage 7 cancelled, it's on to stages 8 and 9. Exact repeats of stages 1 and 2 from the day before, with no chance to service the rally cars in between. Together, they provide another 35 kilometres of muddy rally roads that can result in victory or crushing defeat.
With a strong field of no less than 18 Super 2000 four-wheel drive rally machines with the country's best drivers behind their wheels, it is becoming increasingly difficult to finish in the top 10 of any round of the South African Rally Championship. And surprisingly, given these treacherous conditions, 17 of the 18 that started are still running, with the new Africa Developments polo of Japie van Niekerk and Gerard Snyman the only casualties so far after failing to make the start. Team Total's Mohamed Musa and Andre Vermeulen suffered ill luck on day 1 and lost several minutes when a stone got lodged between the brake caliper and the rim of the rear wheel, damaging the drive shaft in the process. Musa must be wondering what else he must do to have a clean run, but the Tanin businessman consolidated on day 2 to gain valuable experience in conditions that he would have probably never seen before. The Monster Energy Ford pairing of Sebastian Klaassen and Cindy Harding were fresh from their best ever result on the previous rally in Gauteng, but the Cape Town-based Dutchman also found it going tough in the wet and slippery Longmoor forest. Klaassen knew he had little to gain and survived the Longmoor to at least reach the finish of probably also the toughest event that he's ever contested. Namibian duo Voldo Dippenaar and Morne de Tooy were most definitely not used to these wet conditions, so the PZN panel beaters Toyota driver did well to not make any mistakes or to fall off the road. They were rewarded with 14th place overall after a somewhat conservative but nonetheless safe run. Dippenaar's finish also bags him the points that come with third in the S2000 Challenge Cross. Dakar veterans Geniel de Villiers and Ralph Pitchford endured a baptism of water and mud and slippery conditions in their brand new Imperial Toyota Auris. De Villiers started day 2 in 10th position following a few good stage times, but the Red Bull athlete wasn't prepared to stick his neck out or damage the new Auris on day 2. A puncture late on the same day also didn't do him any favours, and all things considered, the Cape Townian wasn't too unhappy about reaching the finish, albeit in 13th position. Hans Weiss and Bjorn de Gant were excited about rallying on the Longmoor's beautiful and fast sweeping gravel roads, but the conditions played havoc with the Dutchman's strategy. Every event so far this season is new to the Dutch and Belgian pairing, who has no previous experience or knowledge of our roads and conditions to rely on. Weiss started the day as the last classified Super 2000 runner, but showed great pace as he fought his way back to an eventual 12th position overall. Ahead of Weiss, Team Total's Jean-Pierre Damso and Grant Martin were also not comfortable in the wet. Damso started the event well, but slid down the leaderboard as he wasn't prepared to take any risks whatsoever. The Somerset West-based driver and son of rally legend Serge Damso persevered through the tough conditions and just missed out on a top 10 result by finishing 11th overall.
Yeah, I think that's about it. Just surviving. Geez, look.
Ahead of the 17 remaining cars that made up the strong Super 2000 field, drivers were now fighting for both survival as well as a coveted top 10 finish on the 2012 Volkswagen Rally. Charles Wilkin and Greg Godrich also battled to find a good rhythm inside the Basil Reed Ford Fiesta. The former circuit racing champion was determined not to damage his car, and after stage 9 they finally managed to break into the top 10. Gugu Zulu and Carl Peskin were in the battle of their lives with a similar older generation Volkswagen Polo of Henk Latergan and Barry White. It wasn't just a battle for top 10, but a battle for Super 2000 Challenge honours. Zulu, inside the BP version, completed stages 8 and 9 just 7 seconds behind his young rival. BP Volkswagen's Hergen Fekken and Pierre Aries were on the comeback trail and charging back up the leaderboard. The former champions had recovered all the way up to 6 on the standings, but once again Lady Luck showed her ugly side at the expense of Volkswagen at their home event. His Polo developed the same problem as the one suffered by Enzo Keen on the day before. It lost drive to the front wheels, and rear-wheel drive is most certainly not what you need in these wet conditions. Feckens slid down the leaderboard to complete stages 8 and 9 in 9th position overall.
We were driving with rear-wheel drive only, so that was really fun.
No such problems for youngster Henk Latergan and Barry White. One man's pain opened the door for the Q8 Oils driver to gain a position on the overall leaderboard as he showed maturity beyond his years to successfully negotiate the tough stages 8 and 9. Latergan Jr. was now in 7th overall with a career best finish and a Super 2000 Challenge class victory now firmly in his sights. And with Hergen Feckens struggling with only two-wheel drive, who better than to pick up the Volkswagen baton than teammates and former champions Enzo Keen and Guy Hodgson. Keen started stage 8 way down in 12th position overall, but a fast time on stage 8 moved him up to 11th. Clearly, the teething problems in his new BP Polo was now sorted, and another very quick time on stage 8 propelled him all the way from 11th to 6th on the overall standings. Just ahead of Keen, Hein Latergan and Johan van der Merwe were still struggling to come to grips with their Q8 Oils Peugeot on these slippery roads. Latergan wasn't confident, but he was still fast enough to maintain his 6th position after stage 8, although he had no real chance of catching Williams in 5th. Perseverance, however, paid off, as everyone was about to be gifted a position, and Latergan completed stage 9 in the 5th position overall. It must have been difficult for John Williams and Kobus Frey to pace themselves and to find the motivation to drive any faster, as they were too far back to realistically challenge for a higher position. And Latergan was nearly a minute behind them and therefore not really a threat. The Sassel 4 driver therefore did exactly what he had to, and that was to keep his head down and stay out of trouble.
70, left 4 and right 1 in tightens to 4 opens, right 1 in tightens to 4 opens, and mid smoke is flat, C270.
A few worried faces at the end of the long and tough stage 9 indicated that something, or rather someone, was missing. Toyota team bosses were expecting the Castrol Toyota of Leroy Poulter and Alvin Coetzee to arrive at the finish, but instead it was the Sassel Ford of Mark Cronje and Robin Houghton who arrived there first.
He unfortunately went off and got stuck. He's not badly off, but he's stuck. So I think it's a hard day for him as well.
Right 8, C60, right 8.
Poulter did indeed go off the road and got stuck. A disappointing end to what has been a brilliant rally. With Poulter removed from the action, Mark Cronje and Robin Houghton inherited 3rd place overall. The Sassel 4 driver won both the opening rounds of this year's championship and is still the points leader. So although he wasn't in a fight for rally victory here in the Eastern Cape, Cronje wouldn't have been too unhappy about his current 3rd position. But what about the fight for overall rally victory? Johnny Gemmell and Caroline Swan started stage 8 with a 27-second lead over Jan Habig and Robert Paisley. Gemmell and the Castrol Toyota Auris have been the class of the field so far by winning 2 of the stages in the Longmore Forest. Habig was upset about losing time earlier on, and when Habig is upset, he simply drives faster. The 6 times champion beat Gemmell by a full 6 seconds on stage 8 to close the gap to 21 seconds. And on stage 9, the Basil Reed Ford Fiesta ate into Gemmell's lead by another 5 seconds. The gap was now just 16 seconds, and only one real Forest stage remained. It was going to get mighty close between these two arch enemies who were giving it their all in the battle for Volkswagen Rally supremacy.
Yeah, we're pushing hard. We're going maximum, as hard as we can go, as hard as the car can go.
Yeah, it's a bit close enough.
Johnny Gemmell still leads the Volkswagen Rally, but Jan Habig closed the gap by a full 10 seconds in just 2 stages. The name Poulter disappears from the leaderboard, allowing Mark Cronje to slot into 3rd, ahead of teammate John Williams. Kuhn recovers well to occupy 6th, while Fecken drops to 9th. Charles Wilkin completes the top 10. It's the last visit to the cold and wet Dunlop service park. Only one gravel stage remains, the same stage that will decide the outcome of the 2012 Volkswagen Rally. And it is now a 2-way fight between Johnny Gemmell and Jan Habig, Castrol Toyota and Basil Reed Ford. Will Gemmell fend off the challenge, or will Habig snatch victory from the jaws of defeat?
Gemmell is first on the road, so he will have no indications as to exactly how fast Habig is going behind him. He could be sure of one thing though, and that is that the 6 times national champion would come out with all guns blazing. but Gemmell is no slouch either, and he crossed the flying finish in a time of 12 minutes and 29.3 seconds. Will it be enough?
I don't know, they were very slippery, eh? So, I don't know what Johnny's done, so we'll see now.
Habig quite literally had a mountain to climb, and he had to do it in a time of 12 minutes and 13 seconds in order to beat his rival. Habig crosses the flying finish in a time of 12 minutes and 29 seconds. He wins the stage by 0.3 of a second, but it's not enough, and Gemmell remains the overall leader.
We went as hard as the car could go, as hard as we could go, and I think it was a good effort from everyone's side.
Behind the dice for rally glory, Mark Fournier and Robin Houghton emerged from the Longmore Forest for what looks like a safe third position, ahead of their Sassel Ford teammates John Williams and Cobus Frey. And what a drive from Enzo Keen and Guy Hodgson, who set the third fastest time of all on stage 10 to gain another position and move up into fifth.
And this is the final battlefield. A short 1.73 kilometre stage on the very wet tarmac at Kings Beach in front of thousands of fans who brave the cold and rain to get a taste of the action. It's unlikely that less than 2 kilometres will play a huge role in the outcome, but the teams still have to complete the stage before reaching the safety of the post-race Parc Fermé.
It has been a weekend that Charles Wilkin and Greg Godrich would want to forget, but the Basil Reed Ford driver has still claimed the points that come with 10th position. Gugu Zulu and Carl Peskin may have lost the battle against Henk Latergan for his 2000 Challenge honours, but 9th overall is still good enough to lead the class points table. And a tough weekend for Hergen Frecken and Pierre Aries, who would have loved to please their fans with a better result, but had no choice but to settle for 8th. 7th was a fantastic result for young Henk Latergan and Barry White, who also claimed their first ever Super 2000 Challenge victory. Hein Latergan and Johan van der Merwe completes the Volkswagen Rally in 6th overall, just 26 seconds ahead of his son Henk. And what a comeback from Enzo Keen and Guy Hodgson, who restored Volkswagen's pride and showed what the new Polo is capable of as they climbed their way all the way up to 5th overall. John Williams and Cobus Frey complete a steady and faultless weekend with a fine 4th position overall. And late drama for Mark Fournier and Robin Houghton, who very nearly didn't even make the start of the final stage.
Unfortunately, we got caught out. The organizer sent us down a road, and the river was actually coming up, and insisted that we go down there, and we got stuck in the river. We managed to get it out eventually, came back here quite late.
And at the very front of the field, Jan Habig and Robert Paisley gave it one last shot by taking another stage victory, their 5th in succession and the 6th of the event for the Basil Reed Ford driver. But it wasn't enough, as the gap to the Castrol Toyota of Johnny Gemmell and Catalin Swan was simply too big to make up on such a short stage. Johnny Gemmell wins the Volkswagen Rally.
It got very close at the end, but Johnny Gemmell takes the victory by just 12.6 seconds from a hard-charging Jan Habig. Mark Fournier very nearly didn't make it to the end, but collects the points for a fine 3rd position, ahead of teammate John Williams. Enzo Kuhn fought back to take 5th, ahead of father and son Hein and Henk Latergan. Frecken survived to finish 8th, while Zulu and Wilkin take the points for 9th and 10th. Drivers and teams are anxious to dry out and find some shelter against the rain, so the traditional champagne and podium ceremony is replaced with an indoor prize giving where Mark Fournier collects the trophy for 3rd.
I'm ecstatic for the championship, a little bit disappointed with the pace of the weekend, but the circumstances were tricky, and we made some wrong calls.
It was a brave fight until the bitter end, but Jan Habig had no choice but to settle for 2nd.
The most important thing this early in the season is to really just get some points, and then maybe step up the pace as we go along. So, but I'm quite happy with the progress that our team's made.
It got mighty close, but Johnny Gemmell walks away as not only the winner of the 2012 Volkswagen Rally, but also as the new championship leader.
We've been close there for quite some time now, some close spurts and just missing out, but now we managed to pull it off.
This